Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. It is smoky outside, but it is fortunately less smoky for me than it has been. So, God willing, we will get some rain soon and life will get back to normal. I hope everyone's safe, that you've been able to avoid any ill effects from this toxic air or the fires. I know some of you all had to evacuate. I've been praying for you, so if you get the chance, update me, let me know how you're doing, because I sure hope everyone is 100% doing good. Today, we are going to be reading James chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. That is longer than we normally do, but it's kind of hard to break up this section by chunks, so I'll read through it, we will talk about it, and then you guys can discuss it with your family. So if you'll join me, we are starting in James 2, verse 14. What use is it, my dear family, if someone says they have faith when they don't have works? Can faith save such a person? Supposing a brother or sister is without clothing and is short even on their daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warm, be full," but doesn't give them what their bodies need, what use is that? In the same way, faith all by itself without works is dead. But supposing someone says, "Well, you have your faith, and I have works," all right, show me your faith, but without doing any works. And then I will show you my faith, and I'll do it by my works. You believe God is one. Well, good. The demons believe that too, and they tremble. Do you want to know, you stupid person, that faith without works is lifeless? Wasn't Abraham our father justified by his works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You can see from this that faith was cooperating along with the works, and that faith reached its fulfillment along with the works. That is how Scripture was fulfilled when it says Abraham believed God and it was reckoned to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. So you see that a person is justified by their works and not by their faith alone. In the same way, wasn't Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she gave shelter to the spies and sent them off by another road? Just as the body without the spirit is dead, so you see, faith without works is dead. So a few things to clarify here. Works, what it's talking about here, is following probably what we talked about earlier, taking care of widows and orphans, the poor, the downtrodden. There's other examples too, following the commandments, living your life in a way that shows love to your neighbors. The other one is Abraham. Abraham was the person who, way back, hundreds, thousands of years ago, God made a promise with Abraham that he was going to have kids, and those kids were going to be so numerous that they would create an entire nation, and they did. They became the Hebrews, who became the nation of Israel, and his son Isaac was the child of promise for that. Abraham at one point was willing to sacrifice, that is, kill his son as an offering to God, but God prevented that. You can read about that in Genesis. But he's kind of the person who started the Jewish faith, the Hebrew culture, and so he's a central person in the conversation. Now, Rahab was a woman who was a member of a city that was really well fortified when Joshua was leading the people, and he was leading them out of Egypt after they'd wandered around the wilderness. And Rahab was a woman who had a job that isn't very godly, but she took care of some spies and created a place for them to be safe. And so the city was able to be overtaken by God's people, by the Hebrews. These are two very different individuals, but they are significant because they believed in something, God, so much that they changed their life so that it looked like it. Now, we talk about how even demons believe in God. Like, Satan knows God's real. He's seen him. Satan has seen the personhood of Jesus, but he doesn't follow Christ. See, we as Christians, we know God's real, and we do something about it. I do not live my life the same way I would if I didn't follow Christ. I try to be more patient. I try to show more compassion. I try to not get so angry at other drivers when they cut me off on the road. These are attributes of being a Christian. We look for ways to show love. Now, if you recall from Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13, it's the love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy. If you've been to a wedding, you've probably heard the verse. It talks about love as a verb. It is an action. Now, when I was a kid in the 90s, this band called DC Talk, which stood for Decent Christian Talk, released a song called Love is a Verb, and it's all about how you cannot love someone if you only feel it. You have to act it out. You guys probably know some of the members of DC Talk because Toby Mac was one of them, and I know some of y'all are huge fans of his. But it's this ingrained notion that Christian concepts like love, like faith, we don't just feel them. I do not feel like I am in love with my family, with my fiance. I act like it. I try and do things sometimes that are contrary to my emotions. So I might be frustrated with a family member, but instead of acting on that frustration, I act in a way that is best for them, contrary to how I'm feeling. Now, faith is similar. It causes us to follow God, even though we may want to do something else. I don't want to share my dozen donuts with my coworkers. I want to eat them all. Now, there's obviously other problems with that, like me gaining weight, but another thing is it's kind to share with someone when they don't have food or they don't have a resource that you have. Right now, we are seeing a lot of that kind of love, that kind of faith acted out in the community as folks are evacuating from fires. Some of you are recipients, some of you are participants in that, and I think it's great to see that, to see Christians living out our faith and living out our love to take care of our neighbors, because that's what it is to be a Christian. We believe in Jesus. We are convinced that he's real. And then we choose to love our neighbors because that is how we love God. And faith is love lived out loud. It is a life that is so remarkably different from the rest of society that there's just something about us Christians, us followers of Jesus, that makes other people who don't believe yet start to become curious. What is it that makes Jed share his dozen donuts or take a deep breath when he really wants to scream at someone? And I'm sure there's plenty of other examples. And I'm not perfect. I don't do all this. I'm cherry picking good examples from my life because that's easier. But my point is, guys, and I know this video is running long. Please forgive me for that. When you choose to accept Jesus, when you acknowledge that he is Lord of your life, that he is God, that he resurrected, you daily get to choose to love him and follow him by living out your faith in actions. And it is a beautiful life that makes this world much more beautiful for everyone around us and ourselves. I love you guys. My questions for us to discuss this week are, first, what sort of work should our faith be causing us to do right now? Another question, the second, is why do you think Abraham is called God's friend? What about that relationship is friendly to you? And my third would be, why do you think God chose someone like Rahab, who was a prostitute, and you can talk to your parents if you don't know what that job is, and someone like Abraham, who's one of the fathers of the Jewish people? Why such two extremely different individuals? Please discuss it. YouTube has been turning off my comment section because I mentioned kids a lot in it. Hopefully they don't do that since these are for everyone and most of y'all are teenagers. But if they do, feel free to email or respond through some other form of communication. I love you guys. I am praying for you. And if any of you do have needs right now that are physical that need met, please reach out to me. I and the rest of the church will do what we can to help. Take care, y'all.